Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel, and this video is going to be about how to photograph and find waterfowl, shorebirds, just birding in general, what kind of gear you need, the planning that I do behind any of my shoots, and just general things that I have learned through over the years to do this. If this is useful for you, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below, share it around some other friends you know that might be into shooting birds or waterfowl. And let's jump right into finding what kind of gear we need to do this.
Okay, everyone, we're getting our gear ready for our trip, and we're going to go through a list that I already made, and I highly suggest everyone else make a list about what you take when you go on your first, second, or third, or 20th wildlife hike, specifically for birds and waterfowl, because they're so small, take up such a small area of your viewfinder, you're going to need slightly longer lenses for it. I recommend, if you are on crop body, at least a 500 millimeter lens, and if you're on full frame, at least a 600 millimeter lens. Now, for the 500, you have the Nikon 200 to 500 f5.6, which is perfectly fine. And if you want a little bit more reach on full frame, you have the Tamron and Sigma versions of the 150 to 600. And the Sigma is the cheapest on the contemporary, as what this is. I've had it for about 3 years, shoots great, I have no complaints whatsoever. Every photo I take on it for birds is with this lens. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're picking your lenses or out buying lenses. And then if you have room in your bag or the budget, I would suggest taking a second lens with you in case you're running anything that's not birds, such as mammals, snakes, flowers, neat scenes. Because this is a 70 to 200, you can take nice panoramic scenery photos with a 70 to 200 or even a 150 to 600 if you're creative. But whenever it comes to your camera, I highly recommend making sure your batteries are charged before you leave. Always double check that the day before. Make sure your SD cards are empty. Make sure you cleaned everything up. Wipe down the viewfinder, wipe down your elements with maybe a rocket blower or at worst case a lens floss. Don't use anything else on it. I wouldn't recommend that. And then make sure that you are confident that your autofocus settings are right on your camera. So for birding, you're going to want continuous focus selected with either group AF, dynamic AF, or 3D tracking based on what's on your camera. And then you also need to go through and pick what clothes you need for your trip based on what the weather is. Then here in a second we'll check out the weather on the computer and we'll dig into that. But just make sure you think of all this stuff before you leave your house to go shoot, because you don't want to do this last minute. It's always best to pack up everything and check everything the day before your planned trip. And trips planned on a whim, like you're just sitting there bored, like, oh, let's go shoot. 9 times out of 10, you're going to forget something. It kind of just ruins your day. So we will check out our shooting location, the weather, and look up information of how we find out where the animals are that we're going for. We'll do that on the computer here in a second. So here we are looking on Google Maps at Moraine State Park, and I believe we are going to go in this general direction right here, probably in the kayak. And so what we're going to do is we're going to see if there's any waterfowl or bird spotting recently of that area. So what you can do is you can go to Google and just type in eBirds map, and then it's the second one, hotspots, right here. So if you click hotspots, loads it up, shows you the whole world, all these different bird sighting locations. So we'll zoom in on Pennsylvania, and we'll go to Moraine State Park. And then we have all these little blips that show different locations of people sighting birds, and it has a key on the side. This shows how many that were actually seen throughout the year. So generally, this is the area I want to go to. I haven't gone to this area yet for just specific waterfowl birding in general. So I'm going to click this little bubble, and this will show us that year-round, it averages 170 species with 1,267 people reporting in. So you can click View Details, and it will load up the last person's sightings.
So today, at the time of this recording, it is October 6th. So 3 days ago, this individual seen 8 Canadian goose, 38 wood duck, 3 grabe, a blue heron, an egret, woodpeckers, blue jays, all this other stuff. And you can keep going down to older dates and older recordings. So I'm really interested in this wood duck right here, to be quite honest. I'm really hoping I can get some good pictures of wood ducks. I have had those on my list for a good while. So what we will do is we'll try and decide what day we want to go on. So this is at Moraine, and we're generally near Butler. Butler's over here. So we will look up the daily weather for Butler for the week. So this is today. I'm not going today. I have other plans. Tomorrow, strong winds. It says possible. So that's probably not a good thing to be out on a lake with strong winds in a kayak. So I'm kind of thinking Thursday. Thursday looks like a good day, so we'll pick this. We have a high of 62. We have a high of 62 with wind gusts up to 8 miles an hour with an average wind of 5, which is perfectly fine. 5 miles an hour is doable. And so now that we know what the weather will be and what we'll feel like in the shade, give or take, and we have a 46% cloud cover, so it'll be about 50-50 overcast, which is great. You want overcast days for shooting. It just puts a giant softbox in the sky and really gives you a nice lighting effect, even if you have to use slightly higher ISOs for it. Gets rid of all the harsh shadows and is great for wildlife, especially waterfowl on the water. You know, that reflecting up into your lens from the lake. So it'll be 62. So I'm probably going to wear a light jacket and maybe my brimmed hat to keep the sun off my face and to keep my head warm. Or I might just end up wearing my fur bomber hat, depending on how chilly it feels, because, you know, bald person problems. So another good thing about this is you want to go shooting on the lake in a kayak or boat when you have slight winds. This way, so whenever you're sitting downwind from the ducks or the waterfowl, if they want to take off and they are not spooked, they will fly at you into the winds, just as an aircraft carrier has to point into the wind to get the planes off the deck. It's the same idea. It just makes it easier for them to take off. So they'll take off in your direction, and in the last second, they'll turn and veer away off to either side so they don't hit you, and they don't really want to be near you anyways. But this gives you the opportunity to take pictures of waterfowl closer mid-flight without you getting too close and scaring them off. So it's always a bonus to have a little bit of wind with an overcast day. So I'm really hoping Thursday is the day. I just wanted to take a quick second to give everyone the idea, if they didn't already, to pack all your equipment, kayaks, etc. the night before you go on your shoot or your waterfowl trip, so that everything is packed and ready to go, and you can leave first thing in the morning as soon as you wake up, and you have a few extra minutes to stand around and look at everything to make sure you don't forget anything for the next day, and to check your list twice. And also, I had a tip from a friend of mine to check out a cove to the west side of Lake Arthur at Moraine State Park, where there was a lot of duck sightings. So I'm going to try that area first, and then if it doesn't pan out very well, I'm going to try the cove that I mentioned on earlier in the video. So either way, I feel like we have a pretty good chance. We'll see what happens. So we made it to the lake. It is a gorgeous day. it looks like I am probably the only one on the water today. I've already seen several ducks, some cormorants, some geese, obviously seagulls, or in this case lake gulls, I guess. Probably ring gulls, most likely. So I'm going to get started with the basic tips for kayaking and getting waterfowl pictures. So the main idea here is you want to be as quiet as you can. You don't want to be paddling and dinging your oars off the side of your kayak. You don't want to do any of that. You don't want to be walking around. You don't want to be talking real loud. And you want to be with the wind at your back. There goes some more birds. So for the main reason you want it at your back is the wind will push you at the birds. You won't have to do any paddling. You can sit ready with your camera. Nothing to worry about. And plus, if the birds want to take off, usually they want to take off into the wind, just like a plane coming off an aircraft carrier kind of thing. They only really do this if they're not spooked. So usually they'll fly into the wind towards you or in your general direction, and the last second they'll bank off to either side, and then you can, if your camera ready, get a nice panning shot of them as they pass by. But if you are real eager and you're splashing your paddle around, doing one of these things, trying to catch up to them, you'll scare the crap out of them. You're not going to get any pictures. They'll fly away. You'll constantly be chasing them around the lake. You're going to look bad. You could possibly get fined from the Fish and Wildlife for that, or the park ranger, because it looks like you're harassing wildlife, and it makes everyone just look bad. It's not a good thing to do. So I'm pretty much ready to go, and for the most part, I have my camera generally set to about 1/1000th of a shutter, f6.3, because that's the smallest the aperture gets when you fully extend the lens. So just to keep it constant, I like to keep it all 6.3. Using spot metering, ISO 200, and nothing on the exposure compensation. And then for the white balance, I usually go for about 5,000 to 5,500K. Just make sure your white balance is always the same. Shooting raw, and then for autofocus, I am on Group AF continuous, and then for my programmable button in the front, I have it so that it switches to single point, so I can change back and forth whenever needed, depending on what the subject is. And then for the image stabilization, I have a customized button on here for a custom VR, so it will basically stabilize the view in the viewfinder if needed for like a stationary object. And if I'm going to be shooting something that's panning, I'll just take VR completely off and just go without it. I'll just shoot at a higher shutter, because at that point we're going to be in the sky with direct sunlight on them. No problems with that. So we're going to begin our day here. We got about 2 hours or so to shoot, and I already see some turtles that I'm eyeing up. So we'll see what we find. Tiny little turtle about this big right here in front of the kayak, about 8 feet away. That's cool. He's just hanging out. Sometimes when you go in the kayak with the camera, it's not always about the birds. It's about the random things you find. I believe I see a heron up here, maybe fishing. A heron, so we're going to try and zigzag our way past him without thinking we're after him, so he doesn't feel threatened about our presence. All the birds feel jumpy today, so hopefully this works out. Okay, so we've successfully paddled past the heron in front of him, and we're going to let the wind push us back towards him without spooking up. So that's the current game plan. We'll see how that works out. He's about 80 feet away. Looks like we caught up to the heron as we paddled by. I don't know if you can see that as he flew over our heads. Looks like we have a turtle colony going on over here. Well, we're not seeing much here today, this portion of the lake at Porter's Cove. Seen some herons, seen some waterfowl off in the distance, didn't really get close to them. Seen a bunch of turtles, so that's cool. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here and portage on down to the next section of the lake. So. Looks like it turned out pretty good, but I only have a short amount of time, and there's some construction going on to our camera right, so I'm trying to make this quick and easy. We're going to try something interesting here. We're trying to do a panoramic photo. Stitch it all together later, so wish me luck. Plus, this is for my Discord's photo competition. I'll put a link to the Discord in the description. If you want to join and learn how to do photography, videography, learn gear, have buying advice, best place to go. I guess that's how you shoot a panorama. So I made these videos to help people that are just starting out in photography for, waterfowl birding, shore birding. And if you have a kayak like this just sitting around that you used to use, it's perfect for a platform for wildlife photography as well. But I put out this information because this is things that I have learned myself over the years that no one really told me, and I hope it helps you guys to get your feet wet with wildlife photography in general, and it can really apply for really any kind of birding. So hopefully this was useful for you. If it was, if you enjoyed it, I appreciate the watch time. I appreciate if you give it a thumbs up, give me a subscription, and follow my channel. If you have any questions or concerns, you can put it in the comments below, or you can email me. My email will be down there too. And then any links to any of the gear that I use for the day will be down there if you need ideas for how to do GoPro recording for your kayak, what kind of lenses I use, my tripod, fluid head for painting for the birds and stuff. If you need any of that, I'll have it listed down below. And I appreciate it, you guys watching this, and hopefully you appreciate the information that I give you. So get out there and get shooting. Get us something good to look at. See ya.